that was a good hike. That was solid 2 hours of hiking Mount Kuta, which is actually a beautiful national park sort of area, so close to the Brisbane city, yet it is so vast that you would never know that you're near the city because you can't hear it, you can't see it, you're just completely surrounded by nature. And that was amazing, and my soul needed that. My body was a bit resistant because I've been really pushing myself this week, and I've been pushing myself at the gym, and I've been just really sore and tired. So when I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. to get up and get ready to go, I wasn't absolutely convinced that I should go, but I just knew that I would love it and that my soul, my heart needed that time in nature. So I pushed myself and I went there, and it was amazing, and I loved it so much, and I met some beautiful people, and the spot was just so incredibly beautiful. I didn't see any animals. I've been hoping to show you some koala bears and some kangaroos. It is rare to go out to nature and to not see some of those kind of Australian native animals, but well, not this time. I'll just have to take you on more hikes with me. So after I got back home, I just completely crashed. I just had a quick breakfast, and after that I just fell asleep. My body was so incredibly sore from all the workouts, and I guess the hike this morning as well. There was a lot of climbing there. It wasn't just a flat sort of hike. There was a lot of up and down climbing, which is great. I loved it, but it does take a toll on you. So how about we get to the topic of this video? I just need to get some water because it's really hot. And I guess this is the secret of doing things like that, like hiking in nature when you're in Queensland, in Australia. You have to get up at 5 and do it first thing in the morning. That's when the temperatures are still bearable, especially during summer, because then during the day, yeah, it just is way too hot and uncomfortable and sweaty and humid. So not the best conditions to be hiking out in nature. I have mentioned on a few occasions now that I was an introvert, and a few of you kind of commented very surprised, saying, what do you mean you're an introvert? You don't seem like an introvert. And this is a kind of feedback that I have been receiving over the years because two reasons. First of all, most people don't understand what it actually means to be an introvert, and then second of all, because I have actually developed my extroverted side really well. Because your introverted or your extroverted side is something that you can develop and cultivate if that's what you desire to do. So who actually is an introvert and how are they different from an extrovert? There are, the way I see it, the way I've learned and I've observed in myself and other people, there are two main differences between the two, and they have to do with how you process information, how you process the world around you. And by the way, just as a side note, introverts aren't necessarily shy. Some introverts are shy, some introverts aren't. I am not shy, and I am very introverted. Nor do introverts hate people and people's company. That's not true at all. I love people. I have a vibrant social life and I have very close connections with my friends and family. I just need time alone as well, and I'm very comfortable being alone. So the main big difference is that introverts take more time to process information. So there is a longer gap between the stimulus and response. What basically that means in practice is that whenever something happens, there is a situation that the introvert has to respond to, that information and all the associated sensations will kind of need to go through a longer process in the brain, including the long-term memory and different sort of processes in the brain and in the system before the introvert is fully ready to respond. For an extrovert, this is very different because there is a very small gap between the stimulus and response. The extroverts are capable to basically receive the stimulus, have the situation happen to them, somebody asking a question, a situation arising, whatever the situation is. And the extrovert is very capable of just responding to it immediately, answering the question, reacting to the situation, making a decision, etc., etc. This is different for introverts. We introverts really need to sit with things, we need to sleep on things, we need to process. And yeah, an introvert can give you an answer straight away, but that processing will still kind of keep happening. And so after an hour or a few hours or the next morning, they might get back to you and say, look, I've actually felt into it, I thought about it, and that first response wasn't actually my right response, and here is what I really think. Whereas the extrovert will typically respond and then just move on to other things. So in that way, the response that an introvert will give you will be much more deep and thorough and thought out, etc., etc., typically than the answer that you'll get from an extrovert. However, it might just take a bit longer to get to you that response, that decision from an introvert. That's why that first main difference has got to do with how we process information. And that's why when you see an introvert, they might seem like a deep thinker, or people kind of a person lost in their thoughts, etc. Because that's what's happening. They are receiving and processing everything around them. They're not necessarily shy, they're not necessarily distancing themselves or acting aloof or anything like that. They probably just really need to process what's happening, particularly in group situations. And this is why so many introverts struggle with group situations and being surrounded by a lot of people, because there's a lot of information kind of bombarding them from all the sides, and they need to handle that, they need to cope with that. I personally find that I can last, when I'm at a party, I can last typically 2 hours, 3 hours if I really like the person and I want to make an effort for them, or 4 hours is my absolute limit. I just cannot stay any longer, because after 4 hours I am so absolutely exhausted that I need to get out of there, I need to go home, I need to recharge, I need to take care of myself, etc. Which brings me to the second point, also very important, and that has to do with giving and receiving energy. When in social situations, introverts give energy, and this is why it can feel so tiring and exhausting for an introvert to be in social settings. We give energy because this is how we interact with people. When we're paying attention to them, when we're listening, when we're responding, we're sort of outpouring our own energy into the situation, into this person, into the conversation, into the interaction, etc. Whereas extroverts receive energy at social settings. And that's why you'll see these sort of loud, fun extroverts at parties who just want to keep going, and they just stay at parties way later than the introverts do, and they typically don't even need to eat because they're just getting so much energy from other people. I've heard quite a few times an extrovert tell me that they kind of just almost forgot to eat at a party because they were just so pumped and so happy and so energized by the experience. And that's exactly why, because extroverts are sort of pulling or receiving energy from other people. So they feel energized and they feel pumped and they don't want to leave the party because it feels so amazing to be surrounded by other people, whereas introverts are giving out energy. So we need to pace ourselves, we introverts, and we need to go home and recharge. We receive energy, we introverts, from being alone or from just one-on-one interactions with people that we're very close with. That can be also quite charging for an introvert, to be with a really close friend or a family member that they are close to and having that kind of one-on-one time. That is where, we kind of, feel amazing. But it doesn't mean that introverts don't like parties. We very much enjoy and like parties. We just cannot stay very, very late, and we need to take care of ourselves, go home, recharge those batteries, and take care of our own well-being and level of energy. Another thing to understand about this whole introvert-extrovert phenomenon is that it's not exactly a binary system. I know it sounds binary, you're either introvert or an extrovert, but it's actually not. It's it's actually a scale. You are, and most people are somewhere on the scale, where on one end you have complete and full introverts, and on the other end you have complete and absolute extroverts. Actually, a lot of people are somewhere in the middle, or kind of halfway between full extrovert and in the middle kind of person, or somewhere along the scale of the extrovertedness. So it's not necessarily as simple as just classifying people as introverts or extroverts. It is a little bit more complicated than that. So that's why if you feel like, oh, I have some of the qualities of the introvert but some of the extrovert, and some of them are stronger or not so strong, you just might be somewhere on that scale, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of people are. Over the years, I also learned to really appreciate that, inner introvert inside of me, because I was hating that part of me when I was a teenager. I wanted to be extroverted and fun and popular, etc. So I was really sort of rejecting and disliking my introverted nature. It took me many, many, many years to actually understand that this is my strength, and that there is great value in being an introvert. There's obviously also great value in being an extrovert, but I already knew that. I was not seeing the value in being an introvert. And from my own personal perspective, the value is that I really feel and express things on a deep level. I really have that ease of reaching into deep layers of my own psyche and the other person's psyche, and I can really communicate with other people on that deep, profound level. And I've also come to appreciate my time alone, because I've always needed time alone, but I just felt like it was such an uncool thing for me to spend so much time alone. Whereas now, I really give myself a full permission to be alone as much as I wanted, as much as I needed, and not be harsh on myself, even when I'm sitting home alone on a Saturday night, whereas I could be out having fun, enjoying myself with other people. And I love that. I love going out. I absolutely enjoy my time with other people, with my friends and with my family. But I can have an absolute ball being home alone, doing my own thing. And there's so much. I have so many hobbies and so many projects and so many passions and so many things that really keep me deeply entertained for hours. I hope that you've watched my other video, Why I'm Never Bored, where I talk more about that aspect of myself. So there you go, a difference between the introverts and extroverts explained. I hope that clears it up and that it explains well what actually goes on in the brains, hearts, and souls of the introverts. We don't hate people, we're not necessarily shy, we just process the world differently, we see the world differently, and we interact with it differently. So when we say we need to stay home alone, for whatever reason, it's got nothing to do with you. It's all got to do with what we need about our energy levels, and potentially about some overwhelm that we need to process and deal with. I hope that this helps. I hope that this is of value, and that it brought some interesting or helpful points for you about any introverts in your life. Thank you so much for watching. I love you very much, guys. Have a wonderful day.